So that Super Bowl didn't exactly go according to plan, but that's why we live to bet another day. Welcome to Las Vegas. He's Tyler Fulghum. I'm Joe Fortenbaugh. This is Monday's edition of Bet. Jenna Laine from Ground Zero in Tampa Bay to recap everything that took place yesterday in Super Bowl 55. A discussion on NBA MVP odds. LeBron James, is there still some value to be had? And the return of Big Dog, Little Dog as we close the show with four of our favorite wagers for tonight's NBA card. Are you ready?
I'm happy that's back. It's been a while since we've seen the Big Dog and the Little Dog. Forgot their names. Ready to play.
YouTube.com/ESPN Sports Betting is where you can go if you want to check out more great sports betting content from the ESPN crew. All right, this guy right here, he said Starboy would be the first song at halftime. He nailed it. There are a lot of things we didn't nail. We'll discuss that some other day. But that right there, he knocked it out of the park. Monday means we begin the show with a little game we like to call reaction or no action. 3 big statements of which you either react, meaning you agree, or no action whatsoever, you disagree. My man, are you ready?
Ready.
Reaction or no action number 1. Kansas City's defense was worse than its offense in Super Bowl 55.
Hell no action on that. Hell no action. Patrick Mahomes faced constant pressure all game long. The defense also was the victim of some questionable penalties, to say the least. But
let him play.
From Mina Kimes, per ESPN Stats and Info, Mahomes was pressured on 29 of 56 dropbacks, which is 51.2%, the highest pressure rate any quarterback in the history of the Super Bowl has ever faced.
Not good.
So that's more than 100 quarterbacks. Mahomes was pressured more than anyone ever. Brady, on the other hand, was only pressured on 4 of 30 dropbacks, or 13.3%, the lowest rate of any of his 10 Super Bowls that he has participated in.
Crazy.
Mahomes faced pressure in 2.5 seconds or less. Think about that. Had 2.5 seconds or less to get the ball out on 24 of those 56 dropbacks. For Brady, it was 3 of those 30 dropbacks. So to me, the biggest, reason that the Chiefs struggled in this game was that their offense just was not equipped, not ready for this test against the front 7 of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the offensive line injury issues probably had something to do with that. Andy Reid's mind being on things away from the football field and his family probably had something to do with that. Not using that as an excuse. It's just the reality of the situation. That's why we saw Mahomes under pressure. And even the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL, even someone as great as Patrick Mahomes, you get to him enough times, it's going to make him look out.
We're going to start with a little teamwork today. I am with you. No action as well on this one. If I just gave you one piece of information going into Super Bowl 55, you have to make a bet based on this piece of information. Right. Tampa Bay scores 31 points. That's it. What do you bet?
Probably still bet the Chiefs because I would have assumed Patrick Mahomes is this, otherworldly talent. He can overcome anything. Shootout. They lose 34-31. 35-31 is probably what I would have guessed.
All right. But you thought about it. You can go either way.
Right.
Now, if the other piece of information I gave you, just one piece of information, I said, Tyler, I just got out of my DeLorean. I got a piece of information for you, but it's the only shred you can have. Okay. Kansas City scores 9 points in the Super Bowl. What are you betting?
Tampa Bay wins that.
Are you even doubting
throwing every cent I have on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Exactly. The Kansas City defense was bad. All right, they weren't great. They gave up 58 yards per game during the season. They gave up 340 in the Super Bowl. Right around average. Right. They gave up 22 points per game during the season. They gave up 31 in the Super Bowl. All right, not great, but Tampa Bay, I'm getting them backwards. I can't have 2 names. I need Philadelphia, I need Minnesota, I need something like that. You had a scenario where Tampa came into this 7 games off the bye, averaging 34 points per game. You held them to 31. Yeah. Like that should, it doesn't have to be good enough, but it could be good enough. Yeah. The problem is the offense. Right. And more importantly, the problem was the coaching in this game. More importantly than anything else, you hit on it with Reid. They were not prepared for that pressure, one way or another. Reaction or no action, number 2. Both Rob Gronkowski and Antonio Brown will not be back with the Buccaneers next season.
I'm going to no action on this one as well. AB specifically seems like he wants to play, and whatever affinity Tom Brady has for him. I mean, they did hook up for a touchdown in this game. He's allowed AB to live in his house. He tries to get back in the National Football League. I think at least one of them is likely there. I don't know if Gronk is going to finally sail off into the sunset, but no action because I think at least one. If I had to guess, it would be Antonio Brown's case.
I am with you. The statement is both.
Right.
Rob
Exactly.
Gronkowski and Andrew.
Exactly.
I think Gronk's going to be back. Originally, I thought this could be him riding into the sunset. He said he's coming back. Brady said he and Gronkowski are coming back. I don't see any reason why either one of them would be lying to us or trying to trick us here. The Browns situation is interesting because he worked cheap this year.
Yeah.
Just over
Good
$1
point.
million
Good point.
a year. The Buccaneers have some very big free agents they're going to have to deal with. Shaq Barrett, Levante David, Ndamukong Suh, Leonard Fournette, all headed for free agency. If Brown's willing to come back cheap, I think there's an opportunity. If Brown's looking to get paid, I think it may be sayonara. Wide receiver, a little bit too much of a luxury with Godwin and Mike Evans in the fold. All right, number 3. He will turn 44 years old in August, and he's played 21 seasons in the National Football League. Reaction or no action? Tom Brady will play at least 2 more years.
Yeah, reaction. I think Tom Brady has gone on record kind of saying he wants to play past the age of 45. He obviously still has the ability to play at the highest of levels in the NFL. The Bucs, despite some of those decisions we'll have to make, should have a team that is very competitive again next year. Whether they lose David or a Fournette or whatever, they should still be a very competitive team. I think he, like LeBron, has heard all the people doubting him at this age. He can't go on any further. Father Time's undefeated. I think he relishes trying to prove people wrong. So I think he wants to go past the age of 45, try and win an insurmountable 8th, 9th, maybe even 10th Super Bowl.
I mean, he said he wants to play till 45, and I agree with you on this. We're going to get 2 more years out of him because even if the next year is bad, in his mind, it's going to be, well, that was a bad year. I'm going to give it 1 more shot. You know how sideways this upcoming season would have to go for him to walk away, especially with what we just saw. Remember something. 40 touchdown passes this year.
Yeah, he was
second most in 21 seasons. Behind that year, more than a decade ago, with Randy Moss and Wes Welker. He completed 66% of his passes. He had a monster season. The guy is showing no signs of slowing down. We are not going to be able to get rid of this guy. If you love Tom Brady, this is wonderful. But if you do not like him, we are not getting rid of him at any turn. Stop betting against him. And I'm not yelling at you, the great viewer. I'm yelling at myself. I bet against him in every single playoff game. I bet Washington, New Orleans, Green Bay, and Kansas City. All 4. So we're moving on. I'll just be betting on him moving forward. Speaking of which,
man,
Super
nothing
Bowl
would be more satisfying than to have a team I root for beat Tom Brady in the postseason. Nothing would be more satisfying.
I had that.
You did have it.
He can't beat teams from the NFC East. And yet 3 years later, the Eagles threw it all away.
You did have
and are the worst team in the NFL.
That had to be glorious a few years back.
All right, here we go. Super Bowl odds for next year are on the board. Kansas City is your favorite. Green Bay in second. Tied, of course, with the now defending champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baltimore and Buffalo rounding out the top 5. Let's start with this. The defending champs, which are now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they were 11-1 a couple weeks ago. They win the Super Bowl. They beat Mahomes. They moved to 9-1. Does that surprise you at all? What do you make of that?
No, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, again, they have Tom Brady as the quarterback. When are we going to stop doubting the great Tom Brady? Should we ever consider any price attached to Tom Brady a bad value? I guess is the point there. So not surprised that it's moved, especially with the recency bias of them winning this year.
I mean, again, how do you bet against them?
Yeah,
That's where I'm at. How do I bet against them? I don't want the 9-1 with the free agency concerns.
I'm not going to bet
David.
Tampa Bay. I'm going to bet others when it comes to the futures because of better value than 9-1. But, I mean, again, we have just talked about it here, Brother Joe. Tom Brady, okay? We bow to the great Tom Brady, okay? Yay, you've got 7 Super Bowls. You're the best. Yay.
I don't see Atlanta getting much better. And I don't know if Carolina's going to get better. And what are the Saints going to look like in the post-Drew Brees era? Who's quarterbacking them, right? So the divisional path could be easy or easier than expected. And let's remember something. The Bucs got better as the season went on.
Right.
So now if they come back for year 2 with this, they hit the ground running. They don't stumble out of the gates. I would love to bet against them. I can't. I don't want to play 9-1. I don't want to play against 9-1. I'm just going to remove myself from the situation right now, which leads me into question number 2. Are you surprised that Kansas City, who was plus 550 to win next year's Super Bowl, that was 2 weeks ago. They go out, they lose, they get blown out, still plus 550.
I'm not surprised with that, and I think they deserve to be the favorite. We talked about the extenuating circumstances that the Chiefs were dealing with in this particular Super Bowl. Offensive line ravaged by injury, off-field distractions for the coaching staff. Those were very real contextual pieces that we need to apply to this Super Bowl outcome. Had their offensive line been healthy, had Andy Reid not been dealing with anything off the field, would this probably have been a more competitive game? I think so. Could the Chiefs have won? I think so. So the fact that they're plus 550 with, again, the guy who I still think, is the greatest quarterback of all time in Patrick Mahomes, the fact that he had that pass thrown sidearm from the 30-yard line.
Pass.
Like, that's why I say he's the greatest. That's why I say someone who has those physical gifts that you bring to the table is the greatest. So I think it's fair where the Chiefs are at. They shouldn't be downgraded because of this one outcome on Sunday because of extenuating circumstances.
Look, regardless, they've played in back-to-back Super Bowls.
Exactly.
Like, they've won the AFC 2 years in a row. They've got the most popular quarterback in the game, the best quarterback in the game, and Kelsey and Hill are still under contract.
Right.
None of their coaches are going anywhere either.
Right,
Remember something. The enemy's back. Andy Reid appears to be back. You go through the list of free agents for Kansas City this offseason, it's Sammy Watkins, you guys here and there. Eric Fisher's coming back at left tackle. They should be fine. And remember, are the Raiders going to suddenly rise up? Gruden hasn't done anything with them. The Chargers are going through another new head coach, and Denver looks to be a mess at the quarterback position. So ultimately, the path is still relatively, I don't want to say easy, but easier compared to some of the other passes out there.
And they're probably going to be a little ticked off with the outcome of this year's Super Bowl and the embarrassment of losing in such a fashion. It could be a more focused team next year rather than having, we're the champs, we'll walk in, as Doug was kind of talking about, take care of business and go back-to-back. So
there is always that concern, though.
Always
that concern, though, with reigning champs and the curse of the Super Bowl loser.
Right.
The Niners were set up well, and then everyone got hurt.
Don't make the playoffs.
They weren't even a threat. All right, now, between Tampa and Kansas City, if one of them does not make the Super Bowl next year, who would that be, and who would be the team that takes their place in the big game?
There's some teams that I definitely like. If just from a analysis standpoint, I'm trying to look and see which team replaces another. The Packers and the Rams replacing Tampa in the NFC is one that I look at. I said during the Packers-Rams game, whichever team wins that is going to the Super Bowl. That didn't work out, though I do believe in the NFC Championship game, the Packers were the better team. They just had some bad things happen to them, the bomb at the end of the first half, and then Matt LaFleur inexplicably taking the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hand on 4th and 8 to try and tie the game.
Why is everyone allowing Brady to score at the end of the half, by the way?
I don't know. I don't get it. It seems to be suboptimal.
Yeah.
Seems to be suboptimal decision-making or strategy. But if I want to go from a value perspective, if I get away from analysis and then just betting, you talk about the Chargers, getting Derwin James back, having Joey Bosa, second-year leap for Justin Herbert, the whiz kid defensive mind of Brandon Staley coming in. Now, again, you got to go through Patrick Mahomes in that division, but again, if they reach their full potential, that seems great. The 49ers at 14-1. We're just in the Super Bowl a year ago. Love Kyle Shanahan. That defense should be way healthier, you would think, this year.
Bosa coming back.
What if they land Deshaun Watson? Not saying they will, but if they get a Deshaun Watson, if they get an upgrade at the quarterback position, boy, they'd be a dangerous team. The Panthers at 60-1. Aren't they the betting favorites right now with their resources to get Deshaun Watson?
Got to improve that defense.
Got to improve that defense. But you're an immediate Super Bowl contender if Deshaun Watson is on your team and you're just an average defense. I like what Matt Rule has done there, too. I think he's a very, very good coach. Cowboys as well at 30-1. Defense can't be any worse than it was this year. They'll get Dak Prescott back. Before Prescott got injured, their offense was putting up 35, 38 points a game. Maybe they'll be able to outscore everyone. McCarthy is a concern. But, again, if everything comes to fruition, they're a team that could end up in the Super Bowl, I believe.
I'm not betting against Tom Brady in 4 playoff games in a row, losing all 4 of those playoff games, then coming on here today and betting against him again. So, Tom, you go ahead. You go to the Super Bowl next year. I'll pick against Kansas City. And the team I'll pick to replace them is going to be the Indianapolis Colts at 25-1. Now, a lot of people look at that and go, Indianapolis Colts? Ugh. Who's playing quarterback? We'll get to that point. It's a big point, but we'll get there. Indianapolis has been on the rise. Very well run with Chris Ballard as the general manager in that front office. Now, in addition to that, you got a defense that ranked top 10 in scoring, top 10 in total defense this offseason. You got one of the best offensive lines in football, which we just found out yesterday is kind of important if you want to win marquee football games. And they're in a division where it's them and Tennessee, all right? Jacksonville's going to be better at some point, but I don't think it's going to be next year. Right. Houston's an absolute dumpster fire, so it's a 2-team race to get out of that. You go out there and you find a way to get a quarterback in there, and there's plenty available this offseason. Garoppolo might be one you want to look at. Indianapolis at 25-1. I think they're going to be a team to keep an eye on. All right, so let's go down to Tampa Bay, site of last night's massive victory, massive upset on behalf of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we're going to welcome in one of our favorites. She covers the Buccaneers for ESPN, Jenna Laine, joining us here on Bet. Jenna, we appreciate the time as always. You were on the post-game Zoom press conference call last night after Tampa Bay's win. How surprised were the Bucs that they kept Mahomes and the Chiefs' offense out of the end zone the entire night?
Well, they weren't surprised, but I have to admit that I was completely blown away because I remember what Tyreek Hill did to this Bucs defense in Week 12. 269 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, absolutely torched Carlton Davis. But they had a much different game plan this go-around. This time around, the idea was to eliminate the deep play downfield. Carlton Davis told me that they had kind of a top-down approach, and they felt like as long as they could take away those deep pass plays, they would be able to stay in the game. And I have to say, I agree with that idea there, because I went back and watched the New Orleans Saints when they played the Chiefs, and they sacked Mahomes 4 times. And what I noticed is that a lot of times on those plays, they only rushed 3 or 4 guys. In fact, Marcus Davenport, on his sack of Patrick Mahomes, they only had a 3-man rush. And so with Mahomes, one of the big things that you can do, it's not always about blitzing him like it is with some of these young quarterbacks. With him, it's actually taking away his options downfield and making him hold on to the ball a lot longer, which is what the Bucs did last night.
Speaking of that Bucs defense, Jenna, Tom Brady's getting all the adulation, justifiably so, 7 Super Bowl rings, but he can't play defense. And when you think about the quarterbacks that this Bucs team had to beat on the way to winning the Super Bowl, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, and, of course, last night, Patrick Mahomes. These aren't just...
Don't forget about Heineke.
I'll forget about Heineke because Heineke hasn't yet won a league MVP or a Super Bowl MVP. As great as he was in that game against the Bucs, maybe one's in his future. But again, we're talking some of the greatest to ever play the game. What did Bruce Arians say about Todd Bowles and his defense and their role in helping get their hands on that Lombardi Trophy?
Coach Bruce Arians said, I cannot say enough about what Todd Bowles did last night. We already talked about the fact that he decided to blitz a lot less. He played more 2-deep safety than anything and blitzed only a handful of times, a season low considering what he's done throughout the season. So he deviated kind of from his normal route there. But in talking to the guys, there's so much more to Bowles. They run through a brick wall for him. They believe in him 150%, and they are just absolutely thrilled that they're going to be able to have him around for another year. It's really mind-boggling, the fact that, he did get interest from 3 teams, interviewed with 2, and neither of them gave him a head coaching opportunity, considering he had a 10-win season when he was back with the New York Jets. But Arians just can't say enough about the job that Bowles ultimately did with this defense, especially too, you mentioned some of their previous games. They finished that Packers game without both of their starting safeties, Jordan Whitehead and Antoine Winfield Jr. Whitehead left the game with an injury and actually played the game last night with a torn labrum in his shoulder.
Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Brown, Leonard Fournette were all new additions to the roster this year. They all made big contributions in yesterday's win over the Chiefs. Do you expect all 3 of them to be back next season?
I know they sure want to be. I talked to all 3 of them, including Gronk and AB last night specifically about this. And Gronk said, yeah, I guess I'll remain retired for another year, which he told us before, or I think it was after the Packers game. He told us already during the postseason that he absolutely wants to be back. This has been a great scenario for him, not just in terms of playing, but also being so close to his mom, Diane. She lives down in Fort Myers. It's about a 2-hour drive. He's so thrilled to be playing so close to her. He visits her every week. And then AB, I asked him, and he said he would just be absolutely thrilled if he could be back here. It wasn't just the fact that the Bucs gave him an opportunity when most teams around the league had just given up on him. I remember a year ago at the Super Bowl, we were all talking about if we'd ever see him back out on the football field. And to our surprise, he won a Super Bowl with the Bucs last night. They've been thrilled with what he's been able to do. And, he just has really latched on to Tom Brady. He calls him a big brother. He is a mentor to him. And I think that in part that gives AB a lot of structure in his life that he can really try to continue going in a better direction. And then as far as Leonard Fournette goes, he came here and he had to learn to be a backup, and he told me many times how hard that was for him. But he's learned a lot from that experience of backing up Ronald Jones and lo and behold, playoff Lenny is a big reason why they reached the Super Bowl. 313 yards from leading up to the Super Bowl, the most of any player in the postseason. And he said he's never felt pressure. He credits Bruce Arians for helping prolong his career. So I know he would like to be back too. The Bucs are going to have about $30 million in salary cap space at this point, but they've got a lot of other free agents too. Shaq Barrett, Levante David, regarded as the heart and soul of this defense. Barrett told me last night he wants to be back and he wants to get a deal done quick. He believes this is home for him, but you've got him, you've got Levante David, and Ndamukong Suh's going to be a free agent, and you've also got Chris Godwin. He's going to be a free agent as well. So they've got their work cut out for them, but it's not impossible. And I've talked to some of the folks already in the Bucs front office, and they said they might have to move some money around. They may have to restructure some deals, but they're not worried. They're not panicked. They feel like they can take care of it.
All right, finally, Jenna, we do have one more for you. We heard that Jane Castor, the mayor of Tampa Bay, said she'd rename the city Tampa Bay if Tom Brady delivered a championship. Well, here we are. Brady's got a 7th ring, and Tampa Bay is a city of champions in the NFL. What is the latest that your investigative reporting can tell us about where we are in getting Tampa Bay officially renamed Tampa Bay?
Mayor Castor is a woman of her word. I fully expect her to honor that. I know there's going to be a Tom Brady day, but they're going to have some discussions as far as renaming the city. And I think more than anything, she wants to get some clarity on whether or not he wants to go Tampa Bay or Tampa Brady. She also is going to keep her word on this. This is something I'm really excited about. She said that Devin White, if she has her way, and as long as the folks with the Buccaneers allow it, that Devin White, who of course finished off the game with an interception there and had an unbelievable postseason, he's got a thing for horses, and he would like more than anything to ride his horse around the stadium at Raymond James Stadium holding Lombardi Trophy, and Mayor Jane Castor would like to join him. And the best part about this story is the fact that his horse's name is Dream. He already got to do it once at LSU, so there is some precedent for this, and that stadium has had some police horses on the field, so this wouldn't be the first animal, the first horse that's been out there on that stadium field. But I didn't even need to ask Devin about that last night. He actually, when I said, "Hey Devin, congratulations," on the Zoom, he goes, "Jenna, I'm ready to ride my horse."
That'd be a good look. Devin White on his horse, Lombardi Trophy in his hand, no doubt about it.
She covers the Buccaneers for ESPN, and she does a tremendous job in the process. Jenna Laine with us here on Bet. Thank you, Jenna. Great stuff as always. All right, from one GOAT, that would be Tom Brady, to another in LeBron James. Don't at me, Jordan fans. It's just a transition. Life goes on. MVP odds in the association. Let's go back to November 17th with the odds that we were discussing on this show and on Daily Wager. Luka Doncic, your favorite. Giannis, of course, has won 2 years in a row. LeBron, Steph, Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard. This is where the season started, essentially. Now, let's take a look at where we are present day. LeBron James, plus 275. Joel Embiid has surged up the board. My man in Philadelphia. Steph Curry's hanging on. Luka slides back to plus 750. Let's start with this. Did we miss the LeBron chance?
Yeah, I think we did. I don't think he's a runaway enough, even at plus 275, to throw that wager down, because Joel Embiid has been so good. Nikola Jokic has been a statistical monster, even though the team in Denver has relatively kind of underachieved, not by much, certainly not to the level that Luka Doncic's Dallas Mavericks have. I think the time to cash in on the value LeBron was providing has come and gone.
If you watch Daily Wager and you listen to the host, Doug Kazarian, he's a hell of a guy. 2 weeks ago, he was saying 10-1, 8-1. This is the time to buy. He even talked about it on ESPN Chalk. Now here we are at plus 275. He looks like a genius, although I'd still consider Joel Embiid at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Luka is in a buy low spot. They could always turn this season around. Keep that in mind. LeBron versus the field, if you were given that option. Right now for MVP, where are you going? And you are a stan of who?
I am a LeBron stan. He is my GOAT. That is my GOAT.
Don't add him.
From a strictly analysis perspective, I would pick LeBron. From a wagering and value perspective, I would take the field. Because what I just said, plus 275, the value has come and gone on LeBron. But I think from an analysis perspective, he's most likely to win it, because I think he's looking at everyone here and there and saying, you thought at age 36 I wasn't the best player in the NBA. You gave back-to-back to Giannis, and I just, swept through the bubble and won another championship. And I'm not the greatest. I'm going to play every game this season. I'm going to prove to you I'm the greatest. I think that's where his mind is, a la Tom Brady.
I'll take the field because the risk of an injury,
Yeah.
right? But there's nothing fun in that. LeBron, if he avoids injury, he's going to win the award. By the way, did you see his tweet after the Super Bowl last night? Quote, "If you know, you know. GOAT talk." Responding, you don't think he's going to try to go out there and up Brady?
Yep.
That's what guys like that do. Not guys like us.
Right.
We're not on that status.
Right.
We go out after this, we probably have a beer, maybe go to bed early, play some video games, whatever. All right, so big dog, little dog has returned. If you don't know, now you know. Here's how this game works. The association tonight has a handful of games. We are going to give you a big dog, which is an underdog of 5 points or more.
Right.
And we're going to give you a little dog we like, an underdog of 4.5 points or fewer. Let's start with the big dog. Where are you going?
I'm going to Oklahoma City Thunder. They are getting 10 points against
You're fading your boy?
LeBron James and the Lakers. No Anthony Davis. So for a team that
Shame.
is number one in the NBA in defensive rating, not having that anchor there could be an issue. We know the Lakers, especially at home, have had a tendency to play down to opponents. They've been an awesome road team. This bad boy is at Staples Center, where they've just been a mediocre team. The Thunder are shorthanded. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's back. Al Horford is there. Rotation's going to be tight, but 10 points, I think a little bit too much for the Lakers in a spot where they might be looking past OKC, little old OKC.
How ridiculous to do all that standing for LeBron and then bet
It's
against
a
him.
regular season game in February against OKC.
So ridiculous. All right, my big dog. Also, the Oklahoma City Thunder.
There it is. Look at this.
At plus
Come
10 and a
on.
half. This is a ton of points. You mentioned Anthony Davis. You mentioned all this stuff. Let's talk about two other key things. Number one, the situation. For Oklahoma City, this is what they call a get-up spot. You're playing the Lakers,
Yeah.
you're playing LeBron,
Right.
you're playing the defending champs. You're going to come to play tonight. For the Lakers, could be a bit of a flat spot. Remember, you get up for the Clippers and a lot of big teams around the NBA. I don't know if Oklahoma City moves the needle. And in addition, Oklahoma City's been real feisty
Yes,
this year.
they're a
Feisty.
good team.
Well, let's not go that far.
Relative to expectation,
Sure,
they're
okay.
a good team. Relative to what we thought, they've been a good team this year.
They've won 4 of their last 7. They beat Phoenix
Yeah.
and Houston during that
They're
stretch.
not,
Those are
they're
competent
not just
teams.
an easy W on the schedule.
No.
Is my point. They have not been just an easy walk-through W on the
I think
schedule.
we talked about it on Daily Wager. I think they're like 8-3 against the spread on the road this
Yeah,
season.
they're
So we're both
feisty.
going to ride with
They're
Oklahoma City plus 10.5. Now it's time for the little dog, an underdog of 4.5 or fewer. Where are you going?
I'm going to go to the Charlotte Hornets, and this is one of the first games on the slate tonight. They're hosting the Houston Rockets, and 1 point.
Going against the Rockets, huh? You've liked the Rockets.
I've liked
as of
the
late.
Rockets. However, that Houston team will be without John Wall. They'll be out without Eric Gordon. They'll be without Christian Wood in this matchup. So it's all going to be.
Why is it only plus 1 then? Doesn't that feel ridiculous?
It does.
Like,
It feels like Charlotte should be favored because Charlotte's also been a kind of feisty team. Now, they won't
Yeah.
have Devontae Graham, but that actually may make them a little bit better because it forces James Borrego to put LaMelo Ball, the guy who's seemingly running away with Rookie of the Year, into the starting lineup and play him more than 28, 29 minutes. When LaMelo's getting 35, 36 minutes, he's out here flirting with triple-doubles, having 30-point efforts. So, again, with Houston being shorthanded, with Charlotte kind of being the feisty OKC version of the Eastern Conference, I like the fact that I'm getting a point with a team I think at home should be the favorite in this particular matchup.
You go ahead and keep talking. I am actually making that bet right now, right here on this laptop. I like that.
The
analysis.
Hornets, in the past 10 days, the Hornets have beaten straight up Miami. Okay, is that impressive?
I was just kidding. That's enough for the
Milwaukee
Hornets.
and Indiana.
Did beat
They
Milwaukee.
beat Milwaukee.
They were supposed to be awful. Remember when everyone was like, oh,
they're a
LaMelo
good
and
team
Gordon Hayward.
relative to expectation.
Yeah, all right.
Gordon Hayward's been great for this.
So I'm going to go back to the well with the Grizz.
The Grizz.
Plus 2.5. They burned me so badly the other night against Houston, who we were
Houston,
just talking
right.
about. They were never in that game. I think it's a buy low spot for Memphis. All right? They've lost 3 straight. Pacers, Rockets, Pelicans by a combined 39 points. They look awful. So I'm going to kind of look at that dog with fleas and I'm going to think, no one else wants to adopt you. Maybe I will. Maybe there's some value there. Meanwhile,
Sarah
Toronto,
McLachlan.
huge win beating Sarah McLachlan. Those are the worst commercials
They make you cry
ever. They're
every
the
time.
guiltiest commercials ever. They beat Brooklyn on Friday. They're starting to garner some respect. So it's kind of like stock up
I
for
agree, buy
Toronto,
low.
stock down for Memphis.
Jonas Valanciunas is back. Ja Morant's back.
Memphis 7th
Buy
in
low
defensive rating. I'm thinking there's an opportunity there.
All
Do you
right.
believe in the curse of the Super Bowl loser?
It's happened. I don't know if I believe in it, but it is a trend that I've noticed. You know, the Rams, they missed. The Niners, they missed. I'd be shocked if Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs miss if he is healthy all year long.
Have a good vacation. This guy's going to take some much-deserved time off. I will be back to annoy you on Wednesday. Have a great night.